Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com. On the podcast with us today is Wasim Ahmed, and Wasim Ahmed is a life coach and director. He is also the owner of Ahmeds Limited, Alima Group, Luminescent Enterprise, and Success Academy, as well as the Oxford Creative Hub. And Wasim has a passion for helping people and seeing them grow. He's a qualifying pharmacist and has an entrepreneurial spirit that has led him to founding these companies. And the businesses specialize in pharmacy, technology, executive coaching, and real estate. He's now focused on helping create an environment for the world's future entrepreneurs through investing and setting up incubation centers to support their growth through the Oxford Creative Hub. Welcome to the podcast, Wasim.
Hi, Dan. Fantastic to be on here. Thank you for inviting me.
Hi, Wasim. Wondering if you can just sort of give us a little bit of your background and tell us how you got into the entrepreneurial space and what your different ventures are.
Sure. I qualified as a pharmacist 8 years ago, and we set up our first pharmacy within 3 months of me qualifying. But in terms of the whole entrepreneurial mindset, it started when I was probably 10 and a half, 11. My father used to have a taxi firm at the time, and I used to help out as such. I'll use that word. I used to go and operate. It's like a call center thing, but at that time you didn't have GPS, or GPS was still kind of coming through rather, and the systems for the taxi bases weren't all Uber-fied yet as such. But yeah, I used to enjoy it, and I started working in the taxi firm with my father, and I used to tell him, you go cover the jobs and don't worry, I'll handle the base. And that's kind of how it started. I think my father got worried that coming from Asian background, he was more concerned with me studying. And he was finding that I was really enjoying it. So he sold the company. But it never left me. I think that point where just running your own business and growing it, that's kind of where it started.
And where are you located right now?
Oxford. We're based in Oxford primarily. However, we have businesses throughout the UK, Asia. We've started some things in Africa, so we're kind of everywhere. But in terms of primary location, it's Oxford.
So you really started this, not all these different businesses, but you really started as an entrepreneur and kind of getting some of that entrepreneurial spirit and that background from your father when you were 11 years old.
Absolutely, yeah. I think watching him work the way he worked, it was incredible. Because I think there's this whole movement out there that says work smart and don't just get caught up working hard. But for me personally, I think to do anything smart, you have to work hard. And that's where I got it from him. You know, I've seen him do some crazy shifts over the years, but that was the start of us getting into entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is not a 9-to-5 job, as they say, but it's also not Monday to Friday. It's 7 days, no holidays. You will have times where you get time to spend with your family and friends, but it's got to be organized properly, and that is done by having good habits. And not everybody figures that out, because everybody's usually trying to escape the boss, and the business becomes the boss.
So tell us, did you ever see your father make any tough decisions? Do you remember anything where he faced any kind of difficulty and you had to watch him make a tough decision?
Selling the taxi firm, I think, was very tough for him. He did it because he was concerned that I was getting too addicted. I really enjoyed the business side of it. In fact, obviously we had faxes then. I used to send faxes to different companies to get contracts. However, I was only 11 years old as such. And when they wanted to meet, I was too young to see them. My father didn't have the accent that I had. So it was always a experience when we were trying to get these contracts. But I think he realized how addicted I was getting to this, and I think that was a tough decision for him because we had a very good foundation. We were doing well, but yeah, I think that for him was tough. It was at least in his mind, he was thinking about my future, and I think that was in itself quite tough for him to do at that point.
So share with us right now one of the tough decisions that you've had to make along this journey of, you have, multiple organizations that you have founded and have started, and, you're a life coach and various things like that, and a pharmacist. You obviously have had some tough decisions that you've had along the way in this pharmaceutical and technology and executive coaching and this real estate space. Can you share with us a tough decision that you had to make along this journey of your success, and, kind of sharing with us a tough decision that, really didn't have the best outcome that you were looking for?
Tough decisions. I think we've been making tough decisions from the day we started opening our businesses. There's never been a week or sometimes where you don't have to make a tough decision. But I think for us, pharmacy came easy. We made money very quickly. We made our first million within 13 months. So that was the easy bit. We were qualified. So the whole business is a collaboration between me, my two younger brothers, and my sister. Everything we've done has always been together. But pharmacy came naturally. Properties, again, it just kind of complemented what the pharmacy was essentially. So buying more property throughout the UK and in Asia was again easy. I think venturing away from those two particular industries and going into something like technology, that in itself was quite a tough decision for us.
Tell us a little bit about that decision to go into technology.
I think change isn't easy, and my father absolutely was concerned kind of the direction we were taking. Why not stick with something we knew that worked? And my brothers were also a bit hesitant, except one who was an electronic engineer. So there was a kind of not a split, but there was a point where we were like at opposite ends of the spectrum. Which direction are we taking the company? And it came down to making the final decision, and I think that bore a lot of kind of responsibility, especially with me, because I took the step to say, no, we're going to go this way. And they followed along. So that in itself was very tough because I wasn't just making the decision for myself. I was making it for my partners who are my brothers and sisters. So that was a tough point. I think we had a lot of discussions, and it wasn't easy because even myself, as much as I was convinced this is the direction to go, it was not primarily my field. So there were moments of self-doubt. Are we doing the right thing? But we went with it.
Talk just a little bit about the dynamic that you have working with your siblings, and maybe how you guys approach those tough decisions, because that's a little bit different than a lot of the other entrepreneurs that we've talked to. They're just one person, or they might work with their spouse, but we haven't talked to a lot of people that are partners with their siblings. So can you talk about that just a little bit?
Partnerships in general, collaborations, I think, are the future. As a society, for me, the Oxford Creative Hub, for example, the whole project, or even projects like the Empower Success Academy or some of the other ones we're doing, they are based on partnerships. Now, people are generally afraid to go into business with just about anybody, let alone going in business with your siblings, because there's always this worry that it will destroy relationships and so on. However, I feel a lot of the problems we face in the world today would be reduced if people were to form collaborations from people with different backgrounds, ethnicities, faiths, whatever you want to call it, different creeds, colors, because once you start making money together, you start to focus less on the differences and more on what makes you strong and what makes your companies grow. So that's my whole thing. Now, going back to the siblings part, I think we had a very good dynamic. I was the eldest, but at the same point, we had a very good mentor in our father. And I'll give you an example. Like, we would sit down, and whenever, say, there was a business meeting, especially when he started, he would tell them, he's your eldest brother, his decision is what you need to follow, but do give you advice. And as soon as my siblings left the room, he was like, it doesn't matter if you're the eldest, until you convince them, you can't make a decision. So, the way he did it, I think it taught us all a lot. I'm sure you probably had similar talks with them. And I think we grew together in this business, and we realized how effective we were at what we did. I think the main thing is trust. If you trust each other, and there is that kind of whole thing of respect and understanding each other's roles. I think the most important thing in any partnership or collaboration is understanding what your strengths are what your weaknesses are. For example, for us, it was quite easy, really. I'm someone who's really enjoys entrepreneurship. I enjoy the kind of marketing of a business or the growth of a business and kind of coming up with the ideas and doing different things. My second sibling, he was always the kind of gets the stuff done kind of guy. And then the third one, as much as I'm the optimist, he was the kind of grounded one out of us. Like, wait a minute, guys, before we jump into this, we need to think about this. And my sister comes from a background of law. So, it all kind of fell into place. But ultimately, I think what really made it work is knowing each other's roles. And in any collaboration and partnership, I think that's the most important thing. And as much as everybody may think, wow, your brothers, your sisters, it means that's all you talk about. We actually did. There's no lying to that. We, whether we went on holidays or whether we went on day trips or whatever we did, we'd talk about the business. We would have heated discussions. There'd be times I'm sure we wanted to kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same point, because we were brothers and sisters, we knew we were working towards the same goal. We didn't have trust issues because, we'd lived together so long. We grew up together. We understood each other better than, understanding anybody else. So I think it's a mindset, which way you want to take it. If you want to take it that I'm going to be concerned if it's my sibling because I don't want to ruin relationships, then that's your view. But if you go with the view that I'm going to work with a sibling and make this company grow, it's absolutely possible, but define your roles. That is the most important thing.
Well, and I think you hit on several different key points here in, starting or getting into a partnership, because we've interviewed several entrepreneurs who got into partnerships and they kind of fell apart because of various reasons. And I think to structure it the way you're saying, and it's interesting because you talk about how, you need to trust them and you need to know what their strengths and their weaknesses are. And, from your siblings what those are because you grew up with them and you know what their strengths are, you know what their weaknesses are. And of course you trust them because they are your sibling. And I think that is a very, very key point.
And also put money on the table first. I don't care who you are, your mom, dad, brother and sister, friend, it makes no difference. Make sure the money's on the table first. You make sure that everybody knows what they're going to get out of it. Because once you've got the money solved, the rest is easy. A lot of people, I'll give you an example. It's like, you talk to somebody with this great idea and they're listening and you want their help. And they think, I'll help this guy, and I'm sure they'll think about me at some point. And then when that doesn't happen, you get bitter and you get remorse. Why did I help this person, right? So what I do is put money on the table first. So if I'm meeting somebody and I'm saying, look, I want to do something, and I say straight away, this is how much you're going to get paid. Straight away on the table. That's the first conversation I have before I even talk about anything else. Because once that's there, we both know what we're doing. And then, only then can we, move to a positive direction, because everybody is obviously wanting a return. So this whole concept of do things and don't expect a return, as long as that's exactly what you're going to do, great. But if you're going to do it and you do expect a return, make sure you clear it out. And it's the same with siblings, partnerships. Make sure the money is discussed first. This is what the percentages are, or this is what you're going to get out of doing this. And as long as that's clear, the rest is easy.
Yeah. So, you talk about, obviously knowing them and trusting them and also knowing their strengths and weaknesses, and then also defining those roles of each one of the partners in the partnership. So you can kind of set the stage, set the groundwork, and then make sure you have that business plan in place so you know how everybody's supposed to be executing their particular roles. And also, like you said, make sure you discuss the finances. Yeah. And so I think one additional thing that I picked up from here, Wasim, is something that I always stress on I think probably on almost every one of our interviews. I try to stress this in some form or fashion, is making sure you have a mentor. And early on, you guys had a mentor, and that was your father.
We had a mentor as a father, but also we had an amazing friend in Nick Curry from Realnet Solutions in America. I think he recently sold his company a few years back, but he was in Oxford, and he met my father, and through my father, he met us. So having conversations with him really helped us learn about how to run a business. So he was one such mentor. But other than that, we had uncles. An uncle who was a barrister. We had people in the family who'd run businesses. I agree. Mentors and coaches are essential, because, it's not just learning about mistakes. Sometimes you need someone to hold your hand and say, do this, or if this has gone wrong, this is what you need to do. And I think for me, at least, I'm a firm believer that's how the Oxford Creative Hub came to being, from this whole concept of collaboration, but also mentorship and coaching.
Wasim, you hit on it there just a little bit at the end with the Oxford Creative Hub, but it's so neat to hear you talk because I can hear the passion in your voice, to be an entrepreneur yourself and being raised in the family that you were. You had that from the very beginning. When did you realize that you wanted to reach out and help other entrepreneurs? And what do you have any, specific goals, anything that you feel like you're able to specifically help them with?
2.5 years ago, I had my daughter. And I've just recently had a son who's 6 months years old. I think when you're a father or a mother or you have children, your mentality changes. We had a conversation with a group of friends of mine, and we were sitting down, we were just talking about life and the world. And it just hit me that I am a British Pakistani from a Muslim background. And my daughter, no matter how much money or wealth I leave behind her, when she walks out the door, she's still brown. Now, why does that matter? It shouldn't. However, the world is, as I said, it's a very more, it's a divided world at the moment. And I realized that I need to do something for her. I'm 33 now, and I've had a good life. And, I don't think I'm the eldest person as such, but I do feel that, going forward, at least I know which direction I'm going in. But what about our children? And not just my children, your children or, other people's children? What kind of world are they growing into? So I feel we owe it to our future generations to make a difference. And for me, the only way I know how to do it is entrepreneurship. You see, I feel if you can help people become more wealthier or be more successful, what that will result in is time for them to think about what is going on in the world. You see, if you're making £1,200 or $1,200 a month, you're paying bills. By the time you pay your bills, you don't have time to think about what's happening in anywhere in the world. So until it hits you in front of you, you just carry on living in this system of just working every day, paying the bills, and just not being able to think what else is going on. And the problem with that is when something does hit you in the face, say a terrorism incident occurs or something around you happens, because it's so close to home and you haven't really considered it, you're very emotional about what's happened, right? Because you haven't considered the kind of backstory of why it's happened. So for me, the best way to solve the world's problems is essentially by making people wealthier. If we can move away from a resource-based economy to an economy where people work to better humanity from a globalist angle, because in the end of the day, you've got to remember there's only one planet, right? So when destruction comes, it'll come indiscriminately. It won't care who you are, which background you're from, where you were born, it'll come. So why not collaborate indiscriminately?
Could you tell us one thing that you like to do when you're facing a tough decision?
Tough decisions, I think you need to look in the mirror, and the person standing in front of you, like, you can take advice, you can have coaches, mentors, and all these people around you to give you advice, right? But when it comes to a tough decision, do take other people's opinions, but look at that mirror, because that person you're looking at, that person has to make the decision. Otherwise, he shouldn't be in the position that he is. So if you're a CEO or director and you've got a tough decision and you're thinking, wow, what do I do about it? Look in the mirror. As soon as you see that person in the mirror and you realize that this is the person in charge, you make the decision. It's as simple as that. It's, for me, that's my thing. Whenever I'm not sure, I look in the mirror, and if I see that the person I'm looking at is the right person to be making this decision, then I make the decision. And if I feel that right now I'm not sure, or that this decision right now is I'm looking at this person and he doesn't seem to me like someone who should be making a decision, at that point I need to consider, should I be continuing in the role I'm currently in.
Could you also maybe tell us or share with us a book or a resource that you've used and that's helped you in your decision making in your businesses?
I read a lot, so there's not one particular book that I would point out, but I can give you a few that have influenced me. The Master Key System by Charles, I think it's pronounced Hannell. His book was fantastic. Think and Grow Rich, again, is a classic. Benjamin Graham's Intelligent Investor was another book that I've followed. But Robert Cialdini's 50 Scientific Ways to Make Someone Say Yes, that was another one that I've enjoyed. So it kind of falls into this whole coaching-based self-development realm. Again, NLP is something I've come across, and I've definitely utilized some of the techniques from there. So these are the kind of books that have influenced me, but I'm big on philosophy as well. So I look at people in history and look at what made them excellent, and kind of look at, again, another book for me was Sun Tzu's Art of War, or Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. So that's the kind of books that have helped me make decisions, or at least guided me to come up with my decisions.
So let's shift gears here just a little bit and talk about the most exciting place that you have traveled or item that you have purchased with the money that you've made so far up to this point in your life.
Most exciting place, I've traveled quite a bit. So most places have been exciting. The Caribbean.
It's kind of hard to narrow it down to one, huh?
The Caribbean for me was fantastic. It's full of energy. The people can all dance generally. I used to enjoy dancing myself. So it's just a place where there's a lot of energy. Other places, I guess, Europe generally. I you know what? I'll tell you something. People won't think really, but I really enjoy Wales, and I'll tell you why. It rains a lot in Wales, and you think, why do you want to be in place that rains a lot? As I said, I like reading books. So for me, sitting in a cottage with a fireplace in a Chesterfield wing chair, just kind of sitting there with it raining, and I've got my book, I've got my coffee table, I've got my coffee. That for me is fantastic.
I think my wife is just in heaven right now as you described that picture, because she's a big avid reader herself, and that's a perfect environment for her.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in terms of buying things, I used to be really big on fast cars and things like that. But I'll tell you what, recently, since I've had the children, I've just started looking at things slightly differently. So probably the M5, the BMW M5, I can put a pram in it and it can still drive pretty quick. So if I look at a Lamborghini, I can't do much with a Lamborghini, but an M5 for me is a practical car.
Well, and if you have a Lamborghini, you're always, afraid of wrecking it, But if obviously with the M5, you're going to have the same consciousness with it too, but you're not going to lose out as much if you wreck that versus the Lamborghini.
Yeah, and also, I find it a practical, spacious car, right? So if you've got a dog or something, you can fit it inside. So yeah, the M5. Yeah.
So what's the number one thing or number one item that's on your bucket list right now?
For me now is the Oxford Creative Hub. The whole thing about the Oxford Creative Hub was actually born in Lahore in Pakistan. I visited a incubation center down there called the Alpha Tower, and I got to meet a number of young people who'd started startups, especially the tech space. And that for me hit me like, bang, wow, what these guys are doing here. So I came back to the UK and the seed had been planted, right? But then I went to this marketing boot camp by John Lee from Wealth Dragons. And I'm not a big social media person, at least I wasn't. And I went to this marketing boot camp and I realized the power of social media. And I rang my brother. I said, do we have any empty buildings at the moment that we haven't put on rent? I was like, yeah, we do, but they're about to go. Let's stop what you're doing. We are now going to we're going to get into marketing and social media. He's like, are you serious? I was like, yep, that's exactly what we're going to do. I drove down back to Oxford, and the Oxford Creative Hub combined with that experience from Lahore and this whole thing with social media, because I felt that what we've done over 8 years has been slow with our businesses. These kids can do 100 times more and 100 times quicker. And why not give them a space where they can do that? So the Oxford Creative Hub is a collaborative space where people can come and apply to use our space and facilities. They'll have people to coach and mentor them, and then they can access funding after a certain period. On top of that, we've got a design like a studio where you can record podcasts, you can do your vlogs, you can do anything to do with content in this studio. We'll have all the equipment there. And then we've also got a virtual reality hub, which is something that interested me, especially from a healthcare perspective for people with autism and even people with disabilities. You could go there and start practicing or learning about, for example, moving in different spaces. And then we've also got a part of the hub which will have 3D printers. So that's kind of my big thing at the moment. We want to help create the next 100 millionaires in the world through this project. So I think that is pretty much as big as it gets for me.
Sure, that's a very big item on that bucket list of yours, and the Oxford Creative Hub. How can the listeners reach out to you if they want to get more information from you, or possibly get some information about the Oxford Creative Hub?
They can go to it's Wasim Ahmed, which is my official Facebook page, and the other thing, of course, is the Oxford Creative Hub page is also on Facebook. And the website, which is www.theoxfordcreativehub.com. you can go on the Facebook page. We've already got 45,000 likes, I think, last I checked. So it's grown so quickly.
Well, Wasim, we really do appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to come on the podcast with us today. And I hope you have a wonderful, I guess right now, a wonderful evening or rest of your morning. And we really do appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today.
Oh, wonderful for you guys inviting me on the show. Brilliant to come out and get the message across. So thank you.
Yep, you're very welcome. Hope you have a nice day.
You too, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.